Hello everyone, Caren Glasser here, and welcome to this episode of The Passion Point. This is the show where we follow passionistas from around the world who are following their passion, making a living, doing what they love. And today I'm so excited about our guest. Her name is Alina Vincent. And we met a couple of years ago, actually, Alina, and we've had the opportunity in the recent past to reacquaint ourselves with each other. And I'm really excited to have you on the show. You're a business and technology strategist who helps entrepreneurs serious about big impact and profit shorten their path to success. And I know a lot of people out there are very interested in this subject because who wants to take the long road when they can maybe shorten it a little bit? Finding her zone of genius by combining a strong analytical background, which includes advanced science degrees, with creative vision. Alina works at the intersection of logic and imagination, giving you everything from practical research-driven systems and strategies to creating original and intuitive solutions. An Amazon #1 best-selling author, she is gifted in her ability to simplify complex ideas and into actionable result-generating steps. By working with her, you benefit from her very smart strategy, intuitive guidance, and focus on the end result from the very first point of contact. Basically, when you meet Alina, you know she's the real deal. I mean, she's going to take you from point A to point Z. So, Alina, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you, Caren. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, I am delighted that you're here with us today. And this is a show, as I mentioned in the beginning, where we talk to people who are following their passion. So let's start the whole show by using a definition of passion from Webster's dictionary. And Webster says the passion is an intense, driving or overmastering feeling or conviction. What does Alina say passion is to you?
Passion is something that keeps you awake at night. Passion is something you can't live without. And if you follow your passion, you know you're completely fulfilled. So to me, living a life without a passion wouldn't be possible. And to live the best life you can, you have to follow your passion.
I love that. I love that. And I know that you have been following your passions. You do a lot of different things, and hopefully we'll touch on many of them today. But let's start at the very beginning. Let's start about where Alina came from and where you are today. What is this journey that you're on? It's pretty amazing, actually. We don't have to go all the way back to birth, but let's go back in time just a little bit. And how did you get to where you are today and what you're doing today?
It's a very interesting and a very long journey. And the good thing is I finally feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, which is a really good feeling. But it's been a very interesting journey of discovery and trying a few things. So where I grew up in former Soviet Union in Uzbekistan. And if you know anything about it, our education is very strict. Our education is very good. So from the moment we kind of start kindergarten, everything is all about education. You have to learn. And I grew up in a family where both of my parents were professors. My grandparents were professors. So it was like not even a question whether I'm going to college or not, whether I'm getting advanced degrees or not. And everything had to be very scientific and very solid. Like you couldn't go learn psychology, for example, because it was a little bit too fluffy. And then half of my mom and dad and grandparents, they were either math professors or physics professors. So pretty much by the time I got to college, I definitely had choices for what I would study, and it was either physics or math. And I had choices. And along the whole entire time, I felt like it was just not enough. And I've always was doing something. I was knitting, I was crocheting, I was doing scrapbooking, I was doing photography. There was something, and I was always calling it creative outlet, but you couldn't really follow that because it was not a serious enough thing to study. So it was always a hobby. So I've always had a lot of hobbies that had this kind of creative side. And people would ask, why are you knitting another, like the 55th blanket? I'm like, I just need to do something with my hands. I need to do something creative. And it's always been kind of an underlying thing in my life. So I went to college. I actually ended up being an exchange student and came to US to study for a year. I went back and graduated there, applied for graduate school, ended up where I am right now in Reno, Nevada. and I absolutely love this place. And I stayed on this academic track. So I went to get my master's degree in computer science and engineering. I was working towards my PhD. I was teaching physics and computer science and a lot of other things. And I kind of realized that one of my big passions throughout my life has been teaching. So I didn't want to go and keep getting advanced degrees to be a professor or to do research. I really wanted to teach. And I realized looking back, I've always had something I was teaching, from when I was teaching something to my sisters, or being like a TA, or being a tutor for while I was going through college. That's kind of how I put myself through college. I was always teaching. So I said, okay, this is my passion. This is what I want to do in my life. And that just fulfills me. It makes me very happy to take these complex ideas and make them easy, or take somebody who doesn't know anything about a subject and give them all this information and change their life with it.
Right.
So I ended up being instructional designer for about 6 years, which was creating programs, integrating technology into education and helping people make sense of hard things that they didn't necessarily have to use, but they wanted to be more effective. And then I started realizing even that wasn't enough. So something was still missing. And I decided to quit my job and start a business.
Was
And
that scary? Was that scary?
oh my gosh, it was probably the scariest and the biggest decisions of my life. Because if somebody were to ask me even a couple of years before that, how do I see the rest of your life? It would be, I'm staying here, I'm teaching, it's always going to be academic world. And I loved it. And I couldn't even see life outside of that, because that's all I've seen was my parents. That's all that I've seen was my grandparents. That was just sort of like the track. And economy started crashing, and we were in a state university. So there were a few things where creativity was getting less and less. And we were pretty much becoming more of like, answer this question or make this button work. So that was just not sitting well with me. And when I started my business, I started a photography business, because I said, finally, I can follow my creative streak. I finally can follow my passion of creating art or helping people see themselves the way I see them. And having all of this, I have this vision of the world, and now I get to bring it to the world. And number one, it's really scary to have a business. It's really scary coming from the academic world, because you never have to market yourself. You never have to sell yourself. If you're good, people know and they come to you. And it's a completely different story with business. So I spent probably the first year or so, or maybe even 2, learning everything I needed to know about marketing and how to run a business. And as far as photography, it was new and different. It was kind of challenging. I knew everything I needed to know about photography to be a photographer. But it's working with people, it's marketing myself, it's how do you bring more people in, how do you make them happy, how do you make them come back? All of that was challenging. And after about the year, it was like, not quite there. It was just a little bit too much on the creative side and not enough for my intellectual brain. So I immediately sort of started shifting. So my photography business grew into marketing photography. So I was concentrating primarily on how to help businesses market themselves. Then that became too small. And I started focusing on how to help people with marketing outside of photography. So I became a marketing expert. Then people were asking me about all of the other stuff, like how do you do all this stuff on social media, and how are you writing your books and making them #1 bestsellers, and how do you do this? So eventually, about a year ago, somebody very smart told me, do you realize that you're a business coach? And I'm like, no. They're like, you charging people for your photography session, but basically you're giving them a strategy session every time there was you in the room. I'm like, okay.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
So I've embraced that and kind of ran with that. And I realized this is what I was working towards, because everything I've done in my life kind of, now I'm using every single piece, every single experience, every single point that I love. So I still have my creative side. It's finding solutions for people. It's applying all of this photography and marketing and graphic design and social media, and using my technology background, because I can take any program apart and I can code and I can create a website, and technology doesn't scare me. And I'm teaching because I'm back speaking to people. I am back to teaching them and speaking on stages and educating. And I'm creating programs. That's my instructional designer background. So I feel like I'm in such fulfilled place where every single piece of my being is being employed, and I get to use my gifts to share with the world.
Well, it's
And
fascinating.
so
And it's fascinating, Lena, as I'm watching you talk and as I'm listening to what you're saying, you can just see your entire face as your business has grown and as you talked about your business and all the different pieces and how it all came together. It's almost like you created your own industry. You created it from all the different pieces. And how cool is it that you can use and utilize all these amazing talents that you have in one place. You're the one-stop shop, so to speak, right?
I am, and I'm loving it, because if somebody were to tell me this is what you will be doing in 5 years, I wouldn't believe them. But it's like you never know what else is out there for you. So it could be in 5 years I'll be in a different place, but right now I don't feel like something is missing. I don't feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
So you're right where you're supposed to be, is what you're saying. You believe right now you're where you're supposed to be.
At this point in time, absolutely.
Isn't that wonderful? So what do you tell people? I mean, you are actually a prime example of people getting out of their own way and just allowing things to manifest itself. If you can think it, I mean, to think about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, right? If you can think it, it can be. And a lot of people have said to me, well, really, you can just think it and it's just going to show up. Well, maybe not exactly.
But you still have to do some work, but
exactly.
If you have that intention, it will happen.
Right. And if you don't know what it is that you're intentioning, or is that a word, intentioning? If you don't know what your intentions are, how are you going to know when it shows up? And that has always been my thing to people when they go, well, you know, I don't know what I want. Well, then how are you going to know when it shows up if you don't even know what you want? And so it's all about creating those intentions and manifesting them. And you are a prime example. So if you could pull out maybe you can't, because you're doing so many different things in one area. What is your most favorite thing that you're doing? I mean, I met you as a photographer. That's how I met you. You were the photographer, and I've seen your photographs, and you are amazing, quite frankly. If I haven't told you that before. What piece in this whole puzzle that if you had to just do one thing and that was just going to be the one thing you had to do, would that kill you?
It would, that would kill me. I can't even hire a VA, because the first question I ask, what would you like me to do? And I'm like, my day is never the same. My week is never the same. I never know what we're doing, and I like it that way. So to answer your question, if I had to stick with one thing, it would have to be something with teaching. So if I can just pull one thing, because then I can kind of say I'm teaching one-on-one, and I'm teaching on stage, and I'm teaching in groups, because there's something about as soon as I absorb new information, and I'm a lifelong learner. I never stop learning. That's probably, if I didn't leave the university, I would probably still be taking classes. Now I'm learning more about business and about new technologies and about new strategies and the best way of doing things. So as soon as I absorb that new information, I burst with it. I need to come up with a way of sharing that knowledge. So as soon as I learn something or develop something for myself or try something and it works, I want to create a program that teaches other people how to do it. And it all comes down to, I make mistakes and I try things and I try a lot of things, but then it creates a system. It creates things. Here's the pros and cons, or here's what works and what doesn't. And I want to give people the tools so they don't have to make the same mistakes I made, so they can learn on my experience and all of the money I've spent learning all this stuff, and they can get their path to success much faster and much easier. So I have this passion of helping people succeed faster and easier.
And it radiates from you. It's obvious when anyone talks to you, when I've spoken to you, it's obvious that you come from a position of serving and of helping and using your experience to help people get to the next step. So if somebody were to come to you right now and say, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I'm not working. I'm unemployed. I was laid off. I don't know what my passion is. What would you tell them?
a lot of people come to me with this, and this is a part of me that's a brand new to me and I'm embracing. And people told me this along the way, and I didn't believe it until about this year. This year is the first year I'm openly saying it. So people were saying that I'm very intuitive. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't have anything to do with energies. I don't get this. I just can look at somebody and say, this is what, or talk to them for 20, 30 minutes and tell them, this is what your passion is, or this is what you should be doing. And I always thought that that was because I was smart. And I was told in no uncertain terms that that's not because I'm smart. I just have this gift, which is really interesting because I always think I'm smart. So,
Well, Alina, I think you're smart
I'm hiding
too.
behind my intellect. Yes.
You're smart, but you're also intuitive. You're an intuitive,
Yes.
smart person. Yes.
Well, and it's interesting because I've never even given that any thought, but I can answer those questions for people. I have people who come for like a 45-minute session with me and say, I am confused. I've been trying to do this and this and this and this, and there's like no common thread, and I don't know where I'm going. And I can listen to them and say, you know what, in everything you're doing, there's one common underlying thread, and this is your passion. And they go, oh my gosh, how did I not see it? It's that kind of weird thing. But in general, everybody knows it. They just don't know that they know it yet. And very often it takes talking it out and talking to somebody to bring it up. So when people come to me and say, I want to do something different, or I'm thinking of quitting my job, but I don't know where I want to go from there. As long as you let them talk, so if they don't want to talk to me, they can find a different mentor or coach or somebody to talk to, or they can just be in front of a group of friends and talk for an hour about what their life has been, where do they want to go, what they want to get out of life, and what makes them happy. And that group of people, if they're really genuinely interested in you and interested in supporting, they will be able to reflect it back and tell them, this is what I'm hearing, this is what makes you happy, this is where your body language changes, this is where your face lights up, this is what you should be doing. And it's a very powerful exercise to do.
And I'm excited even listening to you say this because I've been through that process with other people, and when the light bulb goes on, wow,
It's magic.
And I know why you like to teach. I like to teach as well, and it's for that reason, because when I see the difference, and when I open that door, open the window, or the light bulb goes off, for that reason, yes, I want to make a living. Yes, I want to make money. I want to do all those things. But for me, the real deal is when that light bulb goes off, when I've taught somebody something and they go, oh my God, I can do that. Just like you just said, I can do that. It's fun. It is fun. It's really fun. Okay. So we're going to go back to the word passion right now. And I love quotes. And I every morning, the first thing that I do is I R&D, I rob and duplicate. I go through all sorts of social media platforms and I scroll and I find quotes or pictures or something that just strikes a chord in me for the day. And I say, okay, that's something that's important, and I'll either share it or I'll internalize it. And today's the quote is this, and this is from Anonymous. I don't know who wrote this. We've done some research. Anonymous wrote it. Passion and purpose go hand in hand. When you discover your purpose, you will normally find it's something you're tremendously passionate about. Yes. Just what you said. Exactly.
That's exactly what I said, because you feel like, oh, I like this, but it's not quite there, or I should be doing this, but it's not making money. Once it's aligned, this is where magic happens. You don't have to even think about it. It just happens. And until you find it, you might have some ways to grow, or some ways to let go of something, or some way of getting out of your own way.
But that's okay.
Yes.
And that's okay. And I think that that statement alone is so important to hear. It's okay if you're not quite where you think you're supposed to be. It's a journey, for God's sake. It's the stuff that happens in between, not just when you're born and when you die. It's the journey in between. Or so they say, the dash. It's the dash between the beginning and the end. What's the favorite quote of yours? What quote do you like?
I thought about it. There's a quote that I found a couple of weeks ago, and it kind of stuck with me. And I shared it on my Facebook page, and everybody loved it. It's a quote by John Maxwell, and it says, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And it all comes down to it's okay to make mistakes, just like you just said. It's okay not to know where you are. Everything that's not getting you closer to the goal potentially is still a lesson that does. So sometimes you can celebrate a great achievement, and sometimes you just learn a lesson for what not to do or how to do it better.
Oh, I love that. I totally love that. It's sort of like failing your way to success, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. So if you could spread passion dust anywhere around the world on anyone, who would you spread it on and what would you hope to accomplish?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. Do you mean in terms of what kind of people or
Doesn't
where
matter.
or
Place,
doesn't
people,
matter?
person. This is a very generic question, very
Uh-huh.
basically just to, where would you like to make some difference?
Oh, because my brain goes in here and here and here and here. So I pick children. I pick kids who are teenagers who are struggling to find who they are and don't know what their passion is because they're either influenced by what their parents are doing or they're influenced by media or they just don't even know what passion is. Because the way the education is and the way kids are not always allowed to pursue their passion because maybe there's no money in it, maybe parents can't afford to follow their passion. Like with my kids, I have two girls and they're 14 and 12, and it's really interesting how different they are and how different their passions are, and we're trying to do as much as we can to nurture that. And both of them have artistic skills. One of them is amazing artist, one of them is amazing uh, musician, I should say. I think she's playing now 6 different instruments, and we try to do as much as we can to keep fueling that fire, to keep feeding that passion. But I see a lot of other parents and a lot of other kids don't always have the opportunity or time or just a desire to do that, because it's kind of like go to school, get your grades, come back and do your homework. So
Right.
I would like to spread some passion for kids because that's the future.
Well, I know you're going to do that. I totally know you're going to do that. I know that you have a new program that's coming out, right?
Mm-hmm. I
So tell
do.
us a little bit about it and how people might be able to connect with you to find out more.
Sure. And that kind of comes back to what I just said a little bit earlier. As soon as I learn something, as soon as I succeed in something, I want to spread the word and I want to teach other people how to do it. And this year, well, in 2014, I created my very first program. And it started as the very low cost. It was a $57 program. The very first time I launched it, I think I made $1,500. And I'm going to teach a program that teaches people how to create their very first money making program. And I'll teach them everything that I've done. I'll show them the free tools they can use to create the program. And I'll walk them through the process, because the very hard step is the very beginning. How do I monetize what's in my head? How do I monetize what's in my heart? How do I get this message out and package it in a nice way so people can buy it and benefit from it? So my program will be teaching people how to take that lower cost program, successfully launch it, successfully sell it, successfully design it, and teach it, and then how you can leverage it. Because that little program that I started last September, I have since launched it a couple more times. I've sold it from stage. I've made over, probably between the high paying clients that I got out of the program and me selling the program, probably made close to $80,000 in the last 6 months. So
That's
I'm
awesome. That's
gonna
awesome.
teach people how to do that.
And Alina, it's what's so important about this is that, there are people out there that supposedly teach people how to do this, but you have done it. You are teaching people what you have already learned, important word,
Yes.
learned on your own, and you are teaching people how to duplicate it within their own product and or service, correct?
Yes, and that's what people kind of say about me. I don't only talk the talk, but I walk the walk. So I won't teach them something that I don't know, I haven't tried, and I don't have my own experience and great results in. And I am happy to show everybody else how to get those same results.
So if
I'm
somebody
gonna,
wants to
yeah.
connect with you, Alina, somebody wants to find out more about this program and to have a conversation with you, where are we going to send them right now? We're going to send them to your email address?
Yes, the easiest way to get hold of me is just alina@businesssuccessedge.com. I'm going to have a very small launch, so you might not see it on a global scale. So just email me directly. Let me know that you're interested in the program. And it's starting early June. So give me a call or email me before then so we can connect.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to share with our viewers that they can do as a takeaway, a giveaway, or something that you would like to share with people so that they can remember you long past this particular show is over? It is evergreen. It will play forever and ever. But once they walk away from the screen, what's a takeaway, what's a giveaway, or something that they might be able to connect with you right now?
Sure. I will send you a link so you can add it to the link on the bottom of this or in the documents that they will get.
Right.
And I have a really neat little report that I put together on how to increase your influence across all of the social media, across the top 6. So it's the Pinterest, it's Instagram, it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, and Facebook. So I have put together a report from my experiences as a photographer, as a visual marketer, and as a just marketer in general, what works the best on each of the platforms. And I find that a lot of people are not familiar with all of them, and they still want to know a little bit from each. So I think that might be a great report for you guys.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. So all of our viewers, make sure you read right down below this right here. There will be a link to get this complimentary report from Alina. Thank you so much for that. That's
Sure.
awesome. I will be looking for it because I don't think I'm a continual learner as you are. I don't think there's ever going to be enough out there for me to continue to learn about social media. So I will definitely be looking out for that as well. Alina, thank you so much for being with us today. You are just a special, very gentle woman, and I really have enjoyed getting to know you, and I know that our journey is going to take us far from here, not just today, but long from here. And I just want to thank you for taking time to be with us today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Carol, so much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share with your followers as well. And it's been a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure actually has been all mine. And I want to thank our viewers. We know that you have a choice as to how to spend your time. We want to thank you for spending your time with us today. So as always, go out and give someone an awesome day. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of The Passion Point. See you later, everyone.